It's a bad visual.
Yeah. So, did you have anything else? Does anyone have anything else? I want to open it up in case we have some questions. Questions? Yes.
I just wanted to ask a more pointed pen name question. Because you had some really great answers. I was actually, right before you mentioned pen names first, I was just thinking about that. And I saw that the reasons were marketing, and of course, you know, what the publishers want. But what about if you were two samples here? Like, so what if you were going to a different genre completely outside of romance, and for somebody that doesn't write romance coming into romance or cozy mysteries or something like that, changing, like, because I've even seen fantasy writers, they're still writing two fantasies, but because it's a different type of fantasy, they'll change their names because of the book buying, you know, the way the marketing is done.
Right.
So what about when people are moving completely in or out of a genre? Like, what do you think about
I can answer this. You're gonna laugh at this, but I was told, I don't know, it's true, that romance writers are very acceptable to people changing genres, and they have no problem. The mystery people are snobby. This is what I was told, and that they won't buy your book if they know you are a romance author. So I was told, you know, completely different website, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Completely separate yourself. It's very hard to do. You know, social media is a pain in the ass. And like to do it twice. So that's what I was told.
How about coming out of other genres into mystery? I mean, if it's just like
well, I don't know. Other genres into maybe a mystery author would be fine with somebody writing horror or thrillers or suspense because it's not that far of a reach. I think you'd be fine. Personally, I think you'd be fine.
You're asking for a friend?
And if you're writing like erotic, like super erotic.
Cozy. I'm thinking cozies actually. So my guilty pleasure is cozy mysteries.
Yeah, so is mine. I love romance. I love cozies. I read everything. So I just think you'd be fine if you're a mystery and you want to write a horror or a thriller. I think you'd be fine. Because it's not that far of a reach. Like it's still a dead body, right? It's just like it's like gore or non-gore, right? Cozies has no gore. No gore is in a cozy, but the horror has gore. But I think you'd be fine.
So people go, not that I would do romance, but I just find it fascinating about what the audience expectations are. Yeah. You know, not just with the story, but with the persona.
Right. Like romance readers will read everything, and I don't think they have.
Romance readers will read everything.
A lot of romance authors write in many different genres. They have like multiple pen names, right? I can think of a few that have 3, 4.
Because a lot of other readers, excuse me, are not as forgiving of people who come from romance.
Yes.
I mean, you will see how many people kind of ignore their. I mean, look at Nora Roberts, for gosh sake. She was writing all those years as J.D. Robb, and none of the men who read her knew it. All the women knew it because we read romance by her. We all knew it was an open secret for us.
And we didn't care.
But we didn't care.
But other people care. Mystery readers didn't care.
And suspense, But I would say the biggest taboo would be like going, if you're writing erotica and then you're writing Christian. And we know somebody that does that. They really separate. Separate.
Or like
no bleeding.
We have children. That's another one.
And it's more difficult, of course, to keep it all separate now. But we know some people that a lot of times, like if you're writing these, you could do one website with 2 different kind of doorways into the romance or the mystery. But if you're writing those things, that's the kind of
totally separate. I mean, my friend. I had 2 little kids that thought Daisy Meadows was a real person. She's a pen, I'm like, no, honey, it's a pen name. Nobody names like Daisy Meadows.
Paige Turner.
So, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Wait. Yes.
I think this is for a genre question that I just wanted to clarify. I was at a meeting at the library the other day, and the person was talking about how to do query letters to an agent. And she wrote historical stuff, and what she said was, "Oh, well, you must have the entire thing finished, polished, all your versions, revisions, and all this stuff, so you can tell them exactly how long it is." And I thought, well, my romance friends don't do that. That's depending on that's her opinion, not what you've seen.
I would say if you're a new author, you have to have
Yes.
the book finished,
First-time
manuscript
author?
finished. You need to know the word count.
Yeah.
They want to know all of that.
Okay.
If you're like a Terri that has 45 books published,
Hey, I
you know,
was rejected by 26 agents when I had 24 books out, so.
she can do it on proposal and doesn't have to do that. But
Yeah, first
you
time.
really need that manuscript done.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. But.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah, the only other difference would be if it was a contest. A lot of our new romance contests will ask for submissions from say the finalists or something, and the book may not be done. Not all the contests require that the book be finished. So in that case, they might ask for a partial, things like that. But generally, yeah, book has to be.
I think the other caveat to that is when you pitch at a conference,
Right.
like agents know you can't always have the book finished and polished by
Right.
the conference date.
Right.
So a lot of times they'll say, I'm interested when you have it finished, send
Right.
it to me and just remind me that this is where we talked.
Right.
So that's the one other time that you could probably get away with pitching without having it finished.
Yeah.
It's a question in the back.
Yes. Hi.
Two questions, two things. One on the pen name issue. I know an author that was writing in one genre, wrote a book in a completely different genre, and it tanked. So when he wrote back in his first genre, the computer systems all looked at his sales record of his previous book, saw that it tanked, and ordered accordingly,
Yes.
but it was back in his original genre that sold really well. So that seems to me to be a plug for if you're going to switch genres, maybe check out a pen name just to play that safe.
That's a good point.
And the question I have is when you're writing historicals, what sort of research do you do? How detailed do you do to make sure you get the language right?
Oh my gosh, I have an entire file cabinet dedicated to Regency period research. Regency historical authors are crazy for detail. I mean, they will call you on the
Because the
officers'
readers-
coats buttons where they wood, or where they steel. They'll call you on the craziest things.
Yes.
So there's a chapter through Romance Writers in America, just the Beaumont chapter, which moved during the Regency era, that is extremely active, and that people ask questions every single day, just mundane, ridiculous questions, and there's a huge scope of experience. People will answer your question.
That's why I should write contemporary.
Yeah. the writers in terms of Regency, think of that if you don't know Jane Austen time period. They're crazy people because
They're
the
crazy.
readers are insane, and the readers are the ones that will call you on everyone. There's a huge author. Her name is Eloisa James. Eloisa James is a pen name for Mary Blythe, whose father was Robert Blythe, a poet laureate. She comes from a huge traditional literature background, and she was a professor at Fordham University when she began writing as Eloisa James. And her first book, she's a Shakespearean expert, head of the department, was a Regency. And she was part of a group I was in at the time, so I'm not, this is, she told us. She didn't think it was important, the research, because it's just a romance. Because she's coming from a much loftier position, and she uses research assistants when she does work at, the department. So her book was riddled with historical errors. There was such an outcry, screaming people, that actually her publisher hired 2 Regency historical authors to re-edit the book and work with her on the second book.
Know your audience.
Yeah. So the Regency time period, do not take it lightly. Do not enter it without warning. And
It's the biggest part of the historical romance market, I would have to say. And then Highlanders too.
Highlanders. But
Highlanders are crazy.
I do an amazing amount of research. I really do. I have my office is a library.
You've been to Scotland
I've
how many
been
times?
to 6 times to Scotland to do research. So it's important, but it's not important to everyone. And whether it's important to readers to do research. I did research. So what if it included taste testing whiskeys from distilleries?
You need to know that kind of stuff.
Yes. Is it going to burn going down, or is it going to warm going down? So that's what you got to do. But the research thing, the aspect, and I think this is the same across all genres, Some people do little or no because they're writing fiction and they feel that the story is enough. Most historical authors I know do a lot. Very specific. Now I may not, I'm crazy. I lost myself for one day for 6 hours because I went off looking for the type of saddle that would be on a certain kind of horse in medieval times and where it would come from. And then I realized that was fascinating, but I didn't even use it. So, you know, I have lots of notes that way, but I use it more for my own background too sometimes. I read the most boring book called The Knight, the Lady, and the Priest, A History of Medieval Marriage, A History of Modern Marriage in Medieval France. With the original documents and wedding contracts, and I read it, and it took me 3 weeks. I used nothing except the attitude that I picked up from those documents of how those women would be treated, so that when I wrote my medieval that was set partly in France, I could convey that attitude. So it doesn't always show, but I think we do it. How about you? Our contemporary authors research?
Well, not to that degree, but for example, in Unchained Memories, the heroine is a medical malpractice lawyer, and the hero is an ER doctor. And she was involved in certain cases where there was where things went really badly wrong, and people died. So thus the medical malpractice aspect of her career. But I didn't want to do the research myself. I called Dr. Fred and said, okay, I think I had him on the phone for 3 hours. It felt like it was like an exam, one of those oral exams. But I needed to know, you know, okay, a person's in a car accident, what kind of injuries would lead to this, and what kind of surgery, and tell me what they're doing in the ER, and you know, what kind of life support are they on? I don't know any of that stuff. I could do the legal stuff, but I couldn't do the medical stuff. One of my critique partners at the time also was a NIC nurse, and she was really helpful. So I like to go to someone and ask questions as opposed to read some dry book about
modern marriage and
operations. You know, if I have a legal, because I only do divorce, I don't do medical malpractice, but it's easy for me to do the research on that. I mean, I know where to go, I know who to talk to, I know where to look, and I'll help any authors that have legal questions. So if I don't know the answer, I'll get it for you, or I'll direct you to the right place. But you know, you need to have those sources to find those answers.
Myrtha, anything to add?
I did a little research, not too much, just basically street names, because the book is taking place in California, the place I visit, and New York City, of course. So I just had to be familiar with the street names just in case. That wasn't there. That's not the name of the street. It's on the corner. It's on the left, not the right, underneath the building. So I had to be, that's it.
Anyone? Yes.
I have a loaded question.
A loaded question?
But it's really all genres.